One more question, Martin. If there's
Yeah.
someone is in their 20s and 30s,
Mhm.
what are the key foundation they should be working for specifically for the corporate culture?
First and foremost, this is something that both you and I have experienced.
Yeah,
You may or may not in your 20s or 30s have enough experience to understand what your career nirvana is.
correct. Yeah.
That place where you thrive, right? It's not the role, it's that thing that you love to do. When I went to our career coach and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for my next step," I was looking at things that I did well. I was not looking at things that I love. I could easily hire into an executive retail position right now because of my experience in retail.
Yeah.
I could easily hire into an organization that wants to build a multi-site ecosystem for e-commerce. I could easily hire into project management. It's something I can do well, but it's not something I love. So in your 20s and 30s, I would spend some time at the top of a mountain meditating over what you love. What is that thing that you truly love?
Yeah.
Now, I understand, oh, I would love sitting on the beach. I would love, being on a cruise. I agree, but you would get sick of that because
Yeah.
there is a drive that is within you. There is something that you excel at doing or that you want to do. First and foremost, I would work on trying as much as is possible to identify that thing. It's easy to go after money that relates to things that you can do well. But the sooner you figure out, I'm almost 50, the sooner you figure out that you should be going after the thing you love and then figuring out how to wrap a title or a role or an organization around that, the better off you'll be. Not only will you be wealthy in terms of health and experience, but because you're passionate about that thing, you're going to find roles that pay well. You're going to find roles that maybe have equity. You're going to find roles that are that are just over the top that you probably never thought you could have because you were just doing something you were good at. And sometimes that requires a career pivot. I pivoted from retail to business intelligence kind of unknowingly,
Hmm.
but I made the best decision that I could make with the time that I had. I was willing to say that's a sunk cost, right? In economics, I spent the money, I spent the time there. I'm not going to regret it, but I'm not going to continue on that path just because I spent 15 years there. But I'm truly going to say, great, I learned, I'm ready to pivot, even if it's a little bit. I pivoted hard. I went to the military. People usually join the military at 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
You're more malleable, you're more ready and capable of changing. Joining the military at 30 years old, unless you understand well what you're doing, that can be a real slap in the face,
Yeah.
right? Because you've got some preconceived ideas about how life should be and how things should be. And you've got people younger than you, with less education than you, with less life experience than you, leading you, right? We could talk about that leadership structure in the military. But ultimately, how much are you willing to learn? So at 20 or 30, you've been in a process of learning. Don't sunset that. You're
Yeah.
never past being a learner. Two, understand that thing that drives you. For me, it's solving problems. And I know that's still pretty vague and kind of silly, but I love the idea of understanding entirely the problem that nobody else wants to solve. I want to be in a place where when I'm gone, it hurts, not because of my ego, but because we're so lean and we all have such important jobs that the demand for our execution is necessary. I like being in those smaller organizations. So I look for the kind of mid to late stage startups. I really enjoy it. I'm more than happy to help companies scale, right? So it's not just about the project management, it's not just about the people building, but it's about scalability and making something bigger and getting it to, become what everybody wanted it to become. So in your 20s and 30s, I think you're still very much in a place that you could benefit from learning.
Yeah.
At the same time, when you get into a role, even if it's not your ideal role, kill it. You
Okay.
will never go wrong by just learning the ins and outs of that role with regardless of anything, It will set you apart from your peers in those roles. And as you want to grow and develop and advance, that'll be helpful. Sometimes we get a role at a certain salary so that when we make the next step, it's a little easier to do that.
Yeah.
But I think when you find your passion, a lot of that becomes a moot point because now you've escaped this idea of, well, okay, so I'm going to resign from this role and I'm going to take this role. I think I deserve a 15% raise. The raise that I took from my past role to this role was six figures.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Because you're
I mean,
passionate
that's
about it.
that's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. I think it's because I was able to clearly articulate without having to regurgitate my resume to somebody that's already looked at it.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is what I thrive on. If you're going to have somebody solving a problem, would you rather have somebody that can or somebody that loves to? That's probably my biggest thing.
Yeah, and that's amazing again because that's what I learned from you. Like you have to follow what you love to do and not what you
Mhm.
want to do in the intermittent time or period where you will have better pay, but just go for
And
it.
and maybe the journey requires a couple of stops, a
Yeah,
couple of tours of duty, a couple of, experiences that are not ideal. Maybe that's just part of your journey.
yeah,
But don't lose sight of what you want to do because you're capable of doing something different.
yeah. Because eventually you'll get capped out, right? You can keep going, right, for a few years. Eventually,
Well,
you will not move to the CEO level if you don't love the ins and outs of your current job, right? That's how I'm looking at it.
there are fewer seats. That's just the reality,
Yeah.
right? We don't have a company of 200 people with another 200 CEOs and 200 C-suites and 200 VPs and two, right? It's just silly. You being driven by passion rather than you being driven by capability, I believe will get you farther along in that journey,
Yeah.
right? Now, Mike Rowe, dirty jobs will say, you know what, don't follow your passion, find a job that where there's a need. I absolutely agree. I understand that it sounds like I'm talking out of the other side of my mouth. I'm just asking you to frame it in the context of these are needs in the culture. These are needs in our market. These are needs that I see on LinkedIn. I would love to do this thing, but I can do this thing.
Yeah.
Take a risk.
Yeah.
Take a risk. Get some help. Go out and have a conversation. Reach out to somebody that can kind of mentor you through how do I shape myself? And I think the other piece here for our 20 and 30-year olds, paint yourself in the role that you want to be in.
Okay.
Don't paint yourself as the role that you're in. For example, I'm a project manager.
Yeah.
I'm going into a new role. Hey, I'm a really good project manager, but I'd like to be a senior project manager, or I'd like to be a program manager and manage people. No, shape your resume in a way that shapes you as the program manager or the senior project manager, right?
Hmm.
Get in front of it. Don't lean on it. Don't sit back, right? A lot of times when a lot of people kind of stand kind of on their heels, right? They're kind of leaning back a little bit. I often think we put our resume in front of us and say, "Hey, this is what I've got. This is who I am." I'd rather see you like a boxer. I want to see you on your toes, kind of forward leaning, and I
Yeah.
want you to say, "No, I am that role that I want to be in." Right? I didn't get a role as a VP by painting myself as a good elephant eater project manager.
You were already that person, right?
I'm there. I've had that
Mhm.
experience. I'm ready for this next level, right? So I would encourage you not to lie, but there's definitely verbiage that conveys the confidence in the interviewer to be able to say, this person is ready for that role. I think your interview shows it, right? When I do interviews, I'm standing up right now, right? You can
Yeah.
see I'm moving around, I'm standing up. When I interview, I stand up because I'm a physical speaker. I use my hands and my face, right? If I have to sit down, I'm sitting on the edge of my chair because I still have that ability to move and whatnot. People want to see people that are driven and moving forward. And it's not a common trait throughout our culture that we have these forward leaning, excited personalities that are passionate about things. And to some degree, I believe that our culture has led us to believe that maybe being excited, maybe being a storyteller, maybe being animated is not a good thing.
Yeah. And
And
why
I
is
would
that?
have,
Why is that?
why?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe they see it as childish. Maybe they see it as unprofessional.
Yeah.
But I think that's incorrect.
Yeah.
I got a VP role. I got a six-figure raise, not because I'm a circus clown, but because I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to fall forward and get up and dust myself off and keep moving forward. I'm willing to acknowledge my failures. I'm willing to speak confidently about those things that I can do, right? When you look at my resume, we've got data, right? In my last company, I took a delivery pipeline that was 6 months long and I got it down to 25 days or down to 32 days with a goal of 25 days. That's data,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so when they say my problem with delivery is that it's too long and it's too conflated, we've got scope creep and all those things, they're like, wow, I need somebody that eats this for breakfast.
Yeah.
But if I come in and say, yeah, I'm a project manager, I can keep things on time, on target, and on budget, 98% of my projects finish on time. I know how to optimize, I know how to make things efficient. Nobody cares.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you got the interview, they felt like you were a good candidate. Now is the time to shine.
Yeah.
So whether you're applying for a new role in an organization, whether you're applying to be, I don't know, an aide to a professor or a mentor, whether you're within an organization and you're wanting to move up, people want to see passionate people. And it's so hard to fake passion when you're doing something you can just do versus something that just drives you. What wakes you up in the morning? What makes you excited? I'm not saying what makes you want to work 60 hours a week. I am saying we have to do this. This is how we exchange value in our culture. We add value, they pay us money. This is just one way that that happens. If you're going to choose this path of employment, if you're going to choose this path of participating in the market in this way, do something you're passionate about.